58 years ago today, work began on the construction of the Berlin Wall. The barrier was intended to stem the population drain from communist East Germany to West Berlin and West Germany. The wall formalized West Berlin's situation as an island in otherwise communist territory. Now, the enclave is now surrounded by more than 150 kilometers of massive fortifications, yet West Berlin remained a magnet for those wanting to escape East Germany. At least 136 people were killed trying to get across the Berlin Wall. In total, more than 600 people were killed trying to flee East Germany. The Berlin Wall, it stood for 28 years until 1989, that famous date when a series of mass protests set off a chain of events that ultimately led to the opening of the frontier and the end of communism in Central and Eastern Europe. During that time, dissidents, activists in East and West Germany, they helped smuggle thousands of people across the inner German border. Our reporter, Christina Küfner, caught up with one of them.
The best thing about jail, Hartmut says, was being let out of his cell once a day to walk around inside a large wire cage. As a young man, he was held for months in a detention centre run by the East German secret police, the Stasi, for trying to flee the country and for aiding others in their attempts to escape.
They didn't abuse us physically. They called it corrosion. It was a method they used to try and grind us down through hyper-control, isolation, disinformation. I spent the worst 11 months of my life here. After a while, you start to long to be sentenced.
Richter never accepted life under the East German regime and tried to flee for the first time by train when he was just 18. He was arrested and put behind bars. When building began on the Berlin Wall on the 13th of August 1961, he knew he had to escape. He saw how brutally the regime was cracking down on dissenters.
As a young person, at some point you have to ask yourself, how long am I going to play this charade? How long can I take it? Or do I want to cooperate with them, find myself a little niche? As long as you're still studying, you had to acknowledge this crap. In every essay, there had to be a commitment to socialism. And if you needed good marks, you just wrote that rubbish down.
A short time later, Richter attempted to escape again. He swam across a border river on the edge of Berlin and made it to freedom. He was in the water for 4 hours before he finally managed to get through a barbed wire fence and onto the shore on the western side. On the eastern side, he would have been shot.
I had a guardian angel that night. I knew there were alarms at the bridge. In the twilight, I saw a thin piece of wire stretched from bridge post to bridge post. If I had touched it, it would have gone off and they would have immediately fired shots.
Dozens of people died in this way along the Berlin Wall. It's still not clear just how many. The regime ruthlessly punished anyone who tried to flee. Nevertheless, Hartmut Richter continued to help more than 30 people escape by smuggling them into West Germany in the boot of his car. He was caught again and spent 5 years in prison before he was bought out by the West German government. The 71-year-old now gives tours in his former prison. He thinks young people should learn that East Germany was a totalitarian state.
You can see that young people are aware and interested. That's why I do this, out of a sense of conviction. I'll always be like that.
That steeliness helped Hartmut Richter overcome the brutality of the Stasi. Now he's able to tell the story as one of those who paid a price for wanting freedom.
And I am joined now here in the studio by Axel Klausmeier, director of the Berlin Wall Memorial. Welcome to the program, and thank you for being with us on this anniversary. Let's really start from the very beginning. Remind us why the wall was built to begin with.
Well, there was the enormous pressure on these German regimes, since so many people escaped the wall, Germany, as you know, was divided in 45 and especially during after 49, and when the two German states were founded. And then between 1949 and the actual date of the wall, 1961, about a sixth of the entire population had fled the country. And in that respect, the government or the regime was under pressure. And so apparently it saw as the last exit, as the last possibility to stop people from escaping, building a wall in the center of Berlin, since the inner German border had been sealed off in 1952 already.
And it was really more than just one wall, wasn't it? Tell us a little bit more about the fortification and the area really surrounding it as well.
It surrounded the entire West Berlin, so it was approximately 100 miles, 155 kilometers. And it was not, I mean, the term, the wall, is actually incorrect because it was a whole sequence of obstacles, a sequence of different walls, a perimeter defense, but also an electrical signal fence and a watchtower, a vehicle ditch, and all of this. And of course, as the actual and the most dangerous part of it were the border guards. And after 1970, 1971, 72, approximately 12,000 border guards were on permanent duty around West Berlin. So only around West Berlin. Of course, the inner German border was also protected. And it was approximately 12,000 border guards at any given time.
And yet people tried to escape, some of them successfully, some of them, you know, their attempts actually ended up fatally. They were killed. Do you think that we will never, ever know just how many people tried to cross?
Well, we have relatively reliable figures. So we know that in Berlin alone, we have 5,000 people that made it through the border fortifications. We are generally talking about 50,000 people that crossed the border, but on the inner German border and in Berlin. But of course, the people also found other ways to escape. So, for example, we know of people that escaped through third countries, like Romania or former Yugoslavia. We know of people who even crossed via China. So East Germans entered the West German embassy in Beijing, for example, and then were flown out into the West. So it was a very long way from East Berlin into the West via Beijing.
We have this phenomena, we have to say also, is that not everyone thinks that things were all that bad in the former East. In fact, there's a bit of nostalgia amongst some, sort of a longing for the way that things used to be. What do you say to that?
Well, it is certainly a phenomena that has been referred to many times over the last 30 years. And I think this nostalgia, and it was called Ostalgia, mixed with the East in the German term. Certainly something about when things change abruptly, when there are very fast changing movements, and then all of a sudden, for example, the entire political system that surrounded you. And this is understandable, but I do believe that it's a bit over-exaggerated because a lot of people really very much value the new Germany. And the majority of former East Germans do value the new democratic Germany.
Thank you so much for joining us to speak on this anniversary of the beginning of the building of the Berlin Wall. Axel Klausmeier, director of the Berlin Wall Memorial. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.